Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. I'd like to start by acknowledging that today we are on the traditional territory of the Stolo Nation. My name is Henry Braun. I'm the mayor of the city of Abbotsford. Earlier this morning, we expanded the Sumas Prairie evacuation order. Approximately 1,100 homes are now impacted. We are grateful for the support from Chilliwack Fire and Police, who are supporting the flooding from the Chilliwack side, and our first responders and staff here at the city, who are doing everything that we can to minimize the impact of the flooding. I've talked to the mayor of Chilliwack. They are giving us all of the support that we need, and we're grateful for that. The closure of Highway 1 in Abbotsford has made a significant impact on individuals trying to go between Abbotsford and Chilliwack. The flooding and mudslides have left a number of people displaced. Family and friends are pitching in to help, and more than 80 families have checked into our reception center. The reception center in Abbotsford has moved to TradeX at the Abbotsford Airport to expand our support and provide a warm space for people, and there's also a reception center in Chilliwack. This is an uncertain and scary time for people who are affected. They don't understand what's happening and what the future will be, but there's concerns for their health, their pets, and their families. Our emergency services team is helping to connect people to support. If they need prescription refills, we encourage them to go to a walk-in clinic, primary care center. Our first priority is for the safety of Abbotsford residents. All city resources are engaged in mitigating these emergencies, including Abbotsford Police, Fire Rescue, Engineering, and Public Works. And I have the Abbotsford Fire Chief Darren Lee and the Abbotsford Police Department Chief Mike Sear here with me today to provide you with an update and to address your questions at the end. Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. As the mayor mentioned, at approximately 2:15 this morning, we received a phone call from some of our regional utility staff about some issues with flooding along the Sumas River Dike. It sort of splits what we call sort of the Sumas Prairie. We've kind of divided it into two divisions. So there was the west side that was impacted yesterday by flooding, and it was spilling over into the east side at several places. So we engaged a couple key staff to get some paperwork started for the mayor to sign so that we could switch from an evacuation alert in the east part of the Sumas Prairie over to evacuation orders, and that was done for public safety. The floodwaters that were starting to migrate their way into the east side of the Sumas Prairie, that's all water that's come north from the Nooksack River, so spilled over the Canada-US border. That's what affected Huntington Village and the West Sumas Prairie yesterday, and that water just wants to keep working its way north and west, and eventually will find its way into the Fraser River. The access issues were fairly unique with the highway being closed down last night, and we ended up with approximately 5,000 cars stranded on a fairly large section of the freeway. Search and rescue from Central Valley Search and Rescue coordinated with Abbotsford Police and Fire, and they performed numerous rescues along the freeway. But that caused a problem with this latest evacuation order, is that we weren't able to bring those folks west. So what we decided to do is we reached out to Chilliwack quickly in the wee hours in the morning. We have one of our chief officers from Abbotsford Fire was able to make his way over, and he's in unified command there with Chilliwack Fire, Chilliwack RCMP. We actually have APD members there, Abbotsford Police Department members there, working collaboratively with Chilliwack SAR. That was all supported by Emergency Management BC. So we made that phone call, made a bunch of those calls 3, 4 in the morning to get that process started. And right now the reception center for residents on the east side of the Sumas River is Chilliwack Secondary, and that address is 46363 on Yale Road, and I'll just give it again. It's 46363 Yale Road. That's for Abbotsford residents impacted by evacuations on the east side of the Sumas River, and that's just due to the closure of Highway 1. So there's just no way through. And then with that reception center that we decided to move to TradeX last night, there was a couple things that the mayor touched on. One was that we had a number of motorists that were stranded. A lot of those people clearly were able to find shelter with friends and residents around the Lower Mainland, but we wanted to make sure we took care of those folks who were stranded on the highway. So we worked with Emergency Management BC. They helped us secure Abbotsford, the TradeX Center, and that was a warming location, and that's some being set up for group lodging now as hotel rooms are becoming really hard to find in the Abbotsford area, and we're pushing folks quite far west to get them lodged with our emergency social services volunteers. And the Abbotsford TradeX, the Abbotsford TradeX, the address is it's at 1190 Cornell Street. It's just near the Abbotsford Airport, just so people know that. We still have homes under evacuation order up on Straighten Road. That was affected by a landslide a couple days ago, or a day ago now, pardon me. As Mayor mentioned, 629 homes on the east side of the Sumas River, and north of 300 homes and farms on the east side of the river now are being actioned. And that evacuation process is going on right now, and folks are checking into the reception center at Chilliwack Secondary. Thank you.
Good morning. I know people to the west of us don't realize how significant this is. They're seeing the sunny weather. This is a very significant situation for us here in Abbotsford. Our resources are completely taxed. We're trying to do the evacuation orders. We are trying to bring in more members, and like I said, all the first responders from across the city are involved. Search and Rescue has just done a phenomenal job. Please, if you are trying to get from the west of us to Chilliwack, you cannot do it. Clear. We're seeing people on social media posting alternative routes. They're putting our first responders in a very difficult position of having now to go deal and address with that. So we don't need people to come in to take a look, take photographs. We really need people just to let us do our job right now and let us get through the next 24 to 48 hours. I want to thank everybody. Like I said, Search and Rescue has done a phenomenal job. This is going to be ongoing. It changes by the hour. We'll try to keep you updated through social media, so please follow all the closures, and that will be in there. But I'll turn it back over to the Mayor for your questions. Thank you.
Sure, and we're here, all three of us, so just direct your any questions to whoever you want, and we'll take them one at a time.
I'll start with you, Mr. Mayor. Can you just talk about the seriousness, the gravity of the situation, and your message to residents and their concerns about their livelihoods?
Well, this is a very serious situation that I've lived here for 68 years. I have not seen what I'm looking at Sumas Prairie. I'm going up with the helicopter later on this morning to take a look from the air, because the situation has changed significantly even from yesterday overnight. So we are laser focused on people's safety first. I am turning my mind already to livestock and the poultry industry, because we are an ag producing jurisdiction, #1 in Canada. There's a lot of cows and chickens and pigs and a lot of other things on that prairie, but right now we are focusing on the safety of our residents and their properties, and then we will turn our mind to all the other things.
This might be one for Constable Walker. You had said earlier that there are people calling you not to be evacuated, and just to ask simple question, is that tying up resources and lines that are much needed elsewhere?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've had people call multiple times from one resident, just trying to get updates. We need people if they're to follow through on the evacuation order. We've had a few people that have chosen to stay at home. Again, it's putting extra, it's tasking our resources, and at a certain point, we need to move on to other locations and try to get people moved. So it is, and we're really asking everyone to cooperate with the orders. They're there for a reason, and this is changing so quickly that you may think you're okay in 1 minute, and literally half an hour later, you'll see the change in the water level. So,
I mean, this is for Mr. Sir. Is it Constable Sir or
Chief.
Chief Sir? If you could go over some of the rescues that you went to, or perhaps if you saw some of the rescues that had to happen last night because of the flooding, and then if you could speak to a bit how much warning people had, that this was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think you saw some of the stuff on social media. We had cars that were overturned. I mean, the roads, at times, I was out there last night, you could not see where the side of the road was. People were going off the side of the road. We had cars flipped over. A situation where we had, one member had to throw on a life jacket and swim out, wade out towards a car that was overturned to bring someone back. And that was just almost on a regular basis for about 2 hours there of cars that have flipped over, people on the roofs of cars that we could not access. The water in some areas, I was out by Whatcom Highway number 1, that was at 5 feet at some points where we just couldn't even get in towards people. At one point leaving some of the semi-trucks who were at least high enough and safe enough, we had to get out of there because our police vehicles were going to be overcome by the water. So it is incredibly challenging. Like I said, same thing with Whatcom. You saw that people stranded in different businesses that they just could not get out. So it was very dynamic and it was quite dangerous. And like I said, I'll give you just a quick example. On the highway, going back and forth a couple times, in literally an hour, that water levels changed on Highway 1 over by Whatcom Cole Road exit, probably by at least 3 feet, so making it almost impassable in certain areas. So very, very challenging.
About 9:30 or at what time?
That would have been probably around 8 o'clock at night when it was most significantly we were seeing. And this isn't just static water. This was water that was actually flowing quite heavily and having a bit of a current. So again, posing a lot of risk for our first responders. And again, I want to really thank Search and Rescue, who've just done an outstanding job, Fire Rescue Service, and our police officers who've been out there. There's people out there still 24 hours are still on shift. And we have, as Chief Lee said, we have people who we can't even get access to who are on the east side of town that we can't bring back here. So we're working on that as well. So you can imagine the challenges that we're facing.
So the dike was basically overcome.
Yeah, I'll let Chief Lee speak to that.
I'll maybe take a crack. I think what most people don't understand is that this water is coming from the U.S. side, from the Nooksack River, which is at flood stage. It's coming across the border. Once it crosses the border and via road, it is heading north and east. And that's what we've been concentrating on. During the night, though, the water has gone over the Sumas Dike, and so is now filling what used to be Sumas Lake. And so now we have an evacuation order for the entire Sumas Prairie. And we've done our team, the operations center. I've been here, anyways, I see it firsthand. I am very proud of the service to our citizens. They're doing an awesome job. And we're just trying to keep, through you, the community informed. We're doing it through our own website and social media channels, but you have the power of broadcasting in a way that we can't. So this is to let our people know this is not water coming down from the mountains. This is water that's coming from the Nooksack River, and it's moving quickly, and water levels have risen dramatically over the evening, and we don't have enough information from the U.S. side to know when are we going to crest, or when is it going to level off here. But it's like a full cup of coffee. Once it's full, it keeps flowing over the sides.
There were alarms going off yesterday, right? I mean, there were alerts from
In
the
Sumas.
side. Yeah,
We don't.
warning that this was
Yeah.
going to happen. I mean, should we be doing that here? Should people, because I was talking to an elderly lady yesterday that was loading a generator, like just trying to pump out her basement. She really didn't think there was an issue.
Yeah, well, a lot of people that have lived here for a while, 1990 is the worst that I remember. Last year was also a significant flood coming across. I think it was Super Bowl Sunday or that weekend in February when the water came back over. But I'm sure that when we debrief after this is all over, right now we're just focusing on the safety of our residents. We will be looking at, I'm sure, some things that we might want to do differently going forward. But this is unprecedented. Other than the 1948 flood, but that was Matsqui Prairie from the Fraser. But hopefully that answers it.
For people who are still waiting for the opening of Highway 1, what can you say when, what can they expect? Because we saw that many people are still waiting right now, some still in their cars. What can you say?
Well, once, part of the problem is it's going to be sunny today and for the next 2 or 3 days, and people think it's over. It's not over for Abbotsford. That water continues to pour into our Sumas Prairie, and the waters are rising. That's not going to disappear in a day or two. So the freeway is going to be cut off for a while. How long? I have no idea. If somebody can tell me when it's going to stop coming across the border, then we can profile that and kind of figure out where this is going. But people need to prepare that they may not be able to travel for many days. And even then, there's the washouts further up into the interior, Coquihalla, Canyon. There's not going to be any movement of trucks anytime soon, or trains for that matter.
What about the biggest concern right now, at this moment that we're talking, and what are the next steps for the next hours?
Our biggest concern and focus now is just to get the people, to get them to safety. We did that with the with the western part of Sumas Prairie yesterday. Now we're focusing, we've got boots on the ground in the eastern half of Sumas Prairie, and once we have secured the safety of our residents, we will turn our minds to all of the other things. When that's going to happen, I don't have a timeline, but maybe Chief Lee has a better scope on timing.
So that evacuation's ongoing right now. Sorry, that evacuation's ongoing right now. But as far as when they're going to feel like it's complete, I couldn't hazard a guess. It's at least several hours before it's complete.
Maybe something about the, I believe there were houses that were swept away, any numbers of that?
I think there was a few houses that were impacted with mudslides. I don't know if it was Straighten or Sumas Mountain, but Straighten, in Straighten. But we've unplugged some of those culverts that were, with debris flows. Anyways, we've addressed that. But we are certainly more focused on Sumas Prairie right now than we are anywhere else.
And Braun, just like bird's eye view, you said you've lived here 68 years. Have you ever seen the problems in the state? I mean, we literally can't intersect our properties right now. We can't drive up north.
Well, I wasn't here in 1948, but I'm thinking it was probably worse then when the Fraser flooded. But this is the worst I have seen since we immigrated here in September of 1953, which is 68 years ago.
How does it make you feel seeing the problems in the state? I mean, just as a human being, as a mayor of a major city.
My heart goes out to people. I mean, there's people's livelihoods that are going to be affected. I can think of many, many farmers that I know on Sumas Prairie. They're going to be devastated because, we're going to run out of feed in 4 or 5 days. They're going to run out of feed in 4 or 5 days because they only have so much bin storage. The dairy industry as well. We have thousands and thousands of dairy cows on that prairie. They also need feed. They also need to have their milk. They can only have so much storage capacity for milk. And the problem is the trucks can't get in to pick up that milk because we have in some spots, as Chief Sears said, 4 or 5 feet of water. So you can't bring transport trucks in. And even if you could, you don't know where the sides, because we're an ag producing jurisdiction and we have very deep ditches because that's how farmers irrigate their fields from the Sumas River. Anyways, it's a long, complicated system in 3 levels. If you drive off the asphalt, and this is a warning, I just want to make sure people don't try to do that. Because when you go over the side, you're in a 20-foot ditch that is full of water right now. So, yeah, it breaks my heart to see what's going on in our city. But we can only deal with what we know, and that's what we're doing, and we've got a great team, our ops team. I'm really proud of how they are tackling what is a historic for Sumas Prairie event, and I'm very pleased with what I see with it. We're good?